You got your instructions in the back. Protect yourself at all times. Just have a good, clean fight. Touch them up. Okay. Let's go to war. Hey, don't get handsy.
These two LFA flyweights know each other pretty well. They met when they were both trying out for the Ultimate Fighter this year.
I expect a quick start from
Chris,
Stanley.
You Kelly, you ready?
And
Let's
both
fight.
girls have said that they want to fight this fight on the feet. Although Kelly still claims to love fighting in the clinch and getting down and dirty with her opponents.
Kobolo Schmit, she said, how has she changed from then to now? She's called herself a meathead. She said she took too many shots to the head, learned that's not a great way to prolong your career. She has spent the last 6 years really fine-tuning her game, and Stanley gets a shot through.
Well, I was really surprised that Kobolo Schmitz saying that she wanted to beat Stanley on the feet, keep this fight on the feet, seeing as how she's been doing so much jiu-jitsu over the last 6, 7 years or so.
Well, and one thing about keeping the fight on the feet versus keeping the fight on the ground, I mean, being at the end of punches isn't necessarily the best recipe for keeping away from a head injury either.
Exactly. Good point there. As Stanley's trying to increase that head injury probability with some of those straight punches there.
Straight got through the guard of Schmitz and backed her up, and big shots from Christine Stanley. And a knee from Schmitz. Here comes Kobolo Schmitz.
It looks like Kobolo Schmitz is really turning it on now, showing some of that old school aggression of hers that has won her so many fights in the past. But Stanley trains with top quality competition every day at Alliance. She's fresh in this MMA scene right now, fighting the best that the scene has to offer at 125. It's going to be no easy task making her give up the ghost here tonight.
Stanley has been more active, coming off a loss, Super Fight League, but that was back in October.
Kobolo looking to land some elbows and knees here in the clinch. Stanley not really doing a whole lot with the clinch right now. Now ending up back with her back against the cage.
Kobolo had mentioned that she has learned and found a way to walk around at 125 pounds versus Chris, who I know is coming off of about a 20-pound weight cut. So I'm curious to the strength and agility of these girls right now.
Nasty elbows from Kobolo Schmitz.
Well, I wonder, she's doing a good job of mixing up her strikes is Kelly Kobolo Schmitz, and often digging in deep for a single, was going for a double, but she's always finishing with a kick of some sort. But I wonder if that's going to come back and leave her open, because sometimes just flinging that kick out there in that punch distance will get you cracked, especially if that kick doesn't have enough on it to do some serious damage. Stanley landing a nice little elbow inside, looking for another one.
Stanley and very again comfortable in the clinch.
Stanley now starting to pick up her output in the clinch there, finding some success with the elbows and some confidence with it as well.
And now fighters restart in the center of the LFA octagon. Big right from Stanley.
But Stanley walks right into Kobolo and clinches again, now looking for the takedown herself. Oh, hands are locked under the butt, and down
Stanley
they go.
Gets it.
Hard double leg lands. Kobolo Schmitz on her back as she starts going to try and get the guard. Stanley staying on top. Kobolo Schmitz working her guard.
Kobolo Schmitz rotating around.
I have seen Kelly win by triangle choke before back in the day. She's got Stanley's arm trapped, or did for a second there. Stanley being very patient, very calm. Oh, armbar attempt from Kobolo Schmitz, but Stanley sussing it out, getting that arm free, but gotta make sure she doesn't get caught in this triangle here. Hammer fist.
Under a minute to go in round one.
Oh, that was not a very good transition for the arm, and Stanley able to pull her arm out.
Kat, you were with Christine Stanley as she was preparing for this fight. What was her game plan coming in here?
Chris was extremely excited to be aggressive and take advantage of this opportunity, especially the timeout. Worked on her wrestling defense, worked on her top pressure, worked on her bottom get-ups. Everything that you need to do to successfully work with somebody like her.
Oh, just
instincts.
Bringing the knee up, expecting Stanley to come up to the feet and clipped her in the head a bit. Really more of the face. There wasn't a lot on that knee, but nonetheless, that is not allowed in the unified rules. We are not in
grounded.
Japan.
That knee went right in the
See
face.
if referee Travis Maytier warns her or deducts a point.
Can't do anything but.
And he will deduct a point from Kelly Cobalt Schmitz.
Well, that is a tough call for Kelly. She was looking to be in very strong position at that moment as well, as Stanley's shot was sprawled and defended. Now back on their feet they are, which I think would favor Stanley.
It gave Christine Stanley a little bit of a breather, although she ate a knee for the trouble.
Oh, nice hard right hand, and another follow-up misses. A lot of oomph on it.
And that's going to do it. What a first round between Kobalt Schmitz and Stanley. Welcome back to our international audience. Understand we have been dealing with some technical issues due to weather. Glad you are joining us here in Minnesota in the Mystic Lake Casino for LFA 20. Ron Kruk, Josh Barnett, and Kat Zingano. And a big round for Christine Stanley.
Coach Melinda's there, Coach Dede. These gentlemen are both very, very good at prescribing a game plan for each individual fighter.
Stanley has been really successful at distance with her hands, but Kobalt has been great about coming close, getting that fight into a, oh, there's that knee.
Kelly, ready? Let's fight.
Kobalt has been good about getting in close and creating a real chaotic fight in tight, but I think if Stanley can keep Kobalt on the end of her punches and stay out at distance, she'll find success with that right hand.
I'm wondering if I'm noticing a limp in Stanley at this point, something with that back right foot.
Could be. Maybe a, oh.
Yeah, check that out.
I wonder what must have happened. Maybe a kick got checked or caught an elbow.
Yeah, she doesn't want to stand right now for some reason, and it's got to be something hurts.
Yeah, for sure. As Kobalt is pushing her into the cage, Stanley unusually trying to go for the takedown, which ended her up in this position as Kobalt's piling it on and fighting in tight.
Kobalt Smith all over Stanley right now.
Well, backing off of her. Maybe a sign of being winded as Stanley comes forward the lead left hook. Pumping the jab out.
Josh, going back to that first round, Kobalt Smith, she had a point deducted. How'd you score that round?
Well, they both were quite successful against each other, but neither one was entirely dominant, so I would have given it a 10-9, being as that point was deducted. I could have easily seen that as a 10-10 for both girls. But I saw elements of that fight that each one was able to put pieces of their game together if they could continue to impose their wills in such fashion. Kobalt fighting in the clinch, moving forward, and Stanley hitting with that right hand at distance. Either one could really take away this fight from the other. Back in the clinch they go. Kobalt looking to land, Kobalt Schmitz, I should say, looking to land those short punches, short shots. Driving forward, just pressuring into Stanley, but now backing completely off. I would say once she's moving forward, just keep moving forward.
Christine, go ahead, Josh.
Well, Stanley, when she's backing up, she's taking all that pressure from Kelly. And it's really hard to breathe when someone's in your face the whole time.
And Kobalt Smith's looking pretty fresh here for not fighting for 6 years. Stanley thought that would be the advantage for her as she's just been more active. She said she's been out of the game a long time.
Stanley really winging those right hands, not able to land completely securely, but a lot of vicious intent with that. Trying to go knuckles deep with that right hand through Kelly's head there. Kelly keeping it mashed into the cage, attacking the body. Dirty boxing. A lot of flicking front kicks out of Kelly Schmitz.
Nice little mouse under the eye of Kelly Kobold right now.
Yeah, it looks like Schmitz has not only a mouse, but it's cut and bleeding, and her eye is swelling up.
Spinning back fist, misses.
Just under that left eye, and two nice shots landed from Christine Stanley.
And Stanley keeps finding a home for that right hand. That's why that swelling is there. That cut has shown up. Schmitz, like I was saying earlier, if she's going to be successful, she has to be moving forward and stay moving forward. When she backs off of Stanley, Stanley finds a home for that right hand. Again, now the left hook lands too. Stanley finding a little more pep in her step, looking as if that right ankle is not bugging her as much.
And the eye of Schmitz is closing up as we speak.
Stanley's corner telling her not to reach. I firmly agree.
Again, the right gets through from Stanley.
Knee to the head.
Shot.
Chris, close your hand.
Schmitz lands a knee to the head, but not enough to cut or wobble Stanley.
Under a minute to go, round two.
Both girls almost content with just wearing some of these shots just to deliver one.
And here goes Kelly forward again. Now she's finding that success, trying to land those knees inside. Knees to the head, body kick lands. Dirty boxing, continuing to press Stanley up against the cage. Stanley now putting Kobold's back against the cage and getting turned quickly with the underhook. 30 seconds left in the round. Kobold may be stealing this from Stanley. Stanley manages to slip out off the cage, find some distance again.
Schmitz returning after a 6-year absence. She left MMA in 2011 to start a business, and because some guy named Dana White said women would never fight in the UFC.
Another kick lands for Schmitz, and an inside low kick. And now Stanley really limping after an exchange there.
Something's with that foot for sure.
Limping back to her corner is Christine Stanley, very gimpy. Sits down. We'll see how much that affects Christine Stanley as we check out the action of round two.
Well, you know Stanley's not going to give up. She's not going to say, oh, I can't keep fighting. I know that. Schmitz here with the dirty boxing, trying to find those knees to the breadbasket. Uppercuts, elbows, short hooks, trying to find a gap. Stanley with a nice counter overhand. Big drop back, fading left hook. Check hook from Stanley. Stanley with a nice crisp right hand, left hook. I give the round to Schmitz as she finishes with that high slapping high kick there, but it's not because of Stanley being ineffective, it's just not enough. You know, she's scoring and she's finding a home for her hands, but she needs to be more frequent with it.
Kelly, ready?
As Schmitz has done the most of the aggression and landed the majority of the shots, I would say. Now, I wonder what's up with that ankle.
And she would be winning if it wasn't for that 1-point deduction happening in the first round. You can hear the Spartan Lethal Ladies supporting Kelly Schmitz in the Spartan Martial Arts Gym, which she owns.
Well, I love it when Stanley stands her ground and puts her hands out there. She's been scoring with a nice cracking left hook early in the round, and setting herself up to land that good hard shot.
Taking away the legs of a Taekwondo fighter is definitely reducing a lot of weapons. Chris is definitely having to improvise here with that back foot being off the line.
Well, I was surprised that I didn't see much. Oh, nice crisp punches out of Stanley. Score hard. I didn't see any kicking from Stanley even early on. Spinning back fist.
Just missed. Schmitz said she would land a couple of those spinning back fists. She thought she'd have some success with it.
Nice right to the body by Stanley. Stanley breathing hard. Still looking like she's got plenty of power in those punches. Stanley's corner asking her to keep coming forward. Lands with a plethora of punches, and forward comes Kobolo, just absorbing the blows and moving forward and pressuring Stanley.
Now she backs Stanley up against the cage again. Elbow sneaks through. Knees from Kobolo Schmitz.
Looking for a body lock there, dropping down into a double as Kobolo Schmitz. But her base is collapsing underneath her. If she keeps driving, maybe she can put Stanley on her back. Stanley getting a post, scooting her hips, attacking the neck. Scooting to the cage, but getting stuck underneath. Nice frame.
Stanley's back on her feet.
Chris was working on that, so that's really good that she put the time in, because that was exactly how she needed to get up under a girl like Kelly.
Kobolo Schmitz getting the body lock. Now looking for the single. Head inside. Using more of a trip action there, and scores. Rolling Stanley up on her head as Stanley trying to come out the back door, trying to scramble here.
See what Kobolo Schmitz, the veteran, can do from this spot.
Well, she's trying to put her knee on Stanley's face to keep her planted. I don't know if that's a really good position to balance from. Stanley trying to get an underhook. Oh, Kobolo Schmitz getting mount. Up against the cage.
Not where Christine Stanley wants to be.
Trapping the hand and punching is Kobolo Schmitz. Trying to pour it on, but her hips getting way too high. I think Stanley might be able to come out the back door.
Under 2 minutes to go in the final round.
Look at those high hips of Kobolo Schmitz. Trying to find the other hook. Trying to get that other grapevine in. Sometimes people get too desperate to secure the grapevine. And in that chase, end up getting reversed.
And Kat, what does Christine Stanley need to do to get out of this predicament?
I mean, it's going to come down to a scramble. She either needs to stand right up and kind of shimmy shake her off, or sit through and turn into her and try to throw that elbow back. So, you know, realistically, sitting here is buying some time, but it's not a good time to buy when I think you're down on the scorecards.
Time is running out for sure.
Kobolo Schmitz peppering in some shots, still trying to find that other hook.
If she could get a hold of one of those hands, just start peeling it off and using it to turn towards her, then she has a chance of getting out of here. But right now she's allowing herself to get controlled in both the hands and the hip spaces.
Wrist ride by Kobolo Schmitz on Stanley as Stanley's sitting square on her butt up against the cage there, but with her back against the cage, Kobolo Schmitz is not going to be able to take the back. It looks like a toe hold attempt from Kobolo Schmitz, or maybe just securing the leg to keep her on her back. Not entirely sure. Stanley here trying to work to get to her base.
Final 30 seconds of round 3.
I'm looking for swelling. I'm looking for marks on the ankle. I'm very curious at what point that happened.
Kelly Kobolo Schmitz finishing strong.
That mauling style that Kelly has been so successful with, but is it going to be enough with that deducted point to get the win over the very, very tough Christine Stanley?
Judge Sheely scores the bout 29-27. Stanley. Judge Nielsen scores the bout 29-27. Kobolo Schmitz. And Judge Nick Vogel scores the bout 28-28, a draw.